Most people don't lose confrontations because they're weak. They lose because the moment pressure shows up, they lose control of themselves. Think back to the last time you watched someone who was completely right still lose an argument. They had facts. They had logic. They even had evidence on their side. But the second the tension rose, something shifted. Their voice got higher. Their words started rushing. Their hands moved too much. And just like that, the room stopped believing them. Not because they were wrong, because they looked unstable. Every confrontation you face is a test, but not the test you think it is. It's not a test of intelligence. It's not a test of preparation. It's a test of control. Can you stay steady when someone challenges your ideas? Can you think clearly when your heart is pounding? Can you speak calmly when everything inside you wants to explode? If you can, you don't just win the argument. You win trust. You win respect. You gain power. Machiavelli understood something most people still miss today. Power doesn't belong to the loudest person in the room. It belongs to the one who remains composed when everyone else starts breaking. He spent his life watching leaders, rivals, and rulers under pressure. Empires rose. Empires collapsed. And one pattern showed up again and again. If you can't control yourself, you can't control anything else. Today, we're breaking down exactly how to stay unshaken in any confrontation, how your body betrays you in seconds, how people judge you before you finish a sentence, and how calmness, when used correctly, becomes an advantage instead of a weakness. Before we go further, say this with me. I stay unshaken. Say it like you mean it, because by the end of this, you'll understand why that sentence carries more weight than any clever comeback you could ever deliver. Let's start with the foundation. Number 1, people trust steadiness, not explanations. Here's the mistake most people make. They believe confrontations are won with the right words. So they rehearse their defense. They stack their arguments. They prepare facts like ammunition. And when the moment finally arrives, they unload everything they've prepared. And nobody cares. Because in tense moments, people aren't listening the way you think they are. They're not carefully analyzing your logic. They're watching you, reading you, scanning you for signals. How steady is your voice? How relaxed is your face? Are you breathing normally or gasping for air? Are your hands calm or restless? Based on those signals, people make a split-second judgment. Is this person credible or not? Strong or weak? In control or cracking? Machiavelli wrote that men are governed by appearances as much as by reality. He didn't say appearances matter a little. He said they matter just as much as truth itself. In a confrontation, how you look matters as much as whether you're actually right. Watch two people argue. One has all the facts, but their voice trembles. They keep looking away. They fidget. The other is only half right, maybe even wrong, but they're calm. They speak slowly. They hold eye contact. Who feels more convincing? The calm one. Every time. Calmness signals reliability. It makes people think, this person knows something. This person is in control. Nervousness does the opposite. It makes people suspect weakness, doubt, or even deception. You can have truth on your side and still lose if you can't control how you deliver it. That's why preparation isn't just about what you'll say. It's about how you'll show up. When someone challenges you, your first responsibility isn't defending your position. Your first responsibility is staying steady. If your tone stays calm, people will give you time. They'll wait. They'll listen. Even if your answer isn't perfect yet. But they won't wait for someone who looks panicked. They won't trust someone who seems overwhelmed. Think about a job interview. You're asked a tough question you didn't expect. You have two options. Option 1, panic. You talk fast. You stumble. You fill silence with words just to avoid it. Your voice rises. You can see the interviewer checking out. Option 2, you pause. You breathe. You look them in the eye and say, "That's a great question. Let me think about that for a moment." And you actually take that moment. Which version gets the job? Not the one with the fastest answer. The one with the strongest presence. This applies everywhere. Arguments with your partner, conversations with your boss, family tension, public criticism. Your words matter less than your composure. Your logic matters less than your presence. Stay steady, and people trust you, even when they disagree. Stay steady, and you control the room, even without all the answers. Steadiness creates trust. Nervousness creates doubt. Now let's get practical. Number 2, a steady body creates a steady mind. Stay calm sounds simple. Doing it when your heart is racing is something else entirely. In confrontations, your body speaks before your mouth does. You can say you're fine, but if your hands are shaking and your eyes are darting around, no one believes you. Your body is a billboard advertising your internal state. And most people can read it in 3 seconds. Shaking hands signal nervousness. Restless eyes signal insecurity. A rushed voice signals panic. Crossed arms signal defensiveness. Every movement, every posture shift, every tone change gets noticed and used to decide whether you should be respected or dismissed. Machiavelli understood this deeply. People judge more with their eyes than with reason. What they see in your composure matters more than the arguments you make. To stay unshaken, you don't start by controlling your thoughts. You start by controlling your body, because your mind follows your body, not the other way around. Most people get this backward. They try to calm their thoughts while their nervous system is already in overdrive. That's like trying to stop a speeding train by thinking positive thoughts. It doesn't work. Control the body and the mind follows. There are 3 things you can control immediately. First, your breathing. Under stress, breathing becomes fast and shallow. You breathe from your chest. That tells your brain danger is present. Survival mode activates. The part of your brain responsible for logic shuts down, and the part responsible for fear takes over. That's why people say things they regret in arguments. Fear is driving. Slow your breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Breathe from your belly, not your chest. Do this for a few cycles. Your heart rate drops. Your brain gets the signal. We're safe. Now you can think again. Second, your posture. Stand or sit like someone who belongs there. Not arrogant, just solid. If you're standing, plant your feet. Stop shifting your weight. If you're sitting, sit upright. Shoulders relaxed. Hands visible and still. No fidgeting, no tapping, no constant adjusting. Every unnecessary movement broadcasts anxiety. Stillness broadcasts control, and your brain notices it too. When your body looks calm, your mind begins to believe it. Third, your voice. Stress makes your voice faster, higher, and uneven. The moment that happens, trust drops. So slow it down. Speak at about 70% of your normal speed. Lower your pitch slightly. Keep your volume steady. And when you need to pause, pause. Don't rush to fill silence. Silence is power. Silence makes others uncomfortable. And when they're uncomfortable, they talk. When they talk, you regain control. This is where the shift begins. Here's what most people don't realize about calm body language. It doesn't just make you look strong. It actively destabilizes the other person. When someone comes at you with intensity, raised voice, sharp words, emotional pressure, and you don't match that energy, something strange happens in their mind. They expected resistance. They expected escalation. They expected you to react. When you don't, their momentum collapses. They start questioning themselves. Why am I this worked up? Why isn't this person responding the way I thought they would? Do they know something I don't? Just like that, the power dynamic shifts without you saying a single aggressive word. Machiavelli understood this. Power isn't about aggression. It's about presence. Whoever controls their body controls the situation. When tension spikes, remember this sequence. Slow your breathing. Steady your posture. Measure your voice. Master your body, and your mind will follow. Master both, and it becomes almost impossible for anyone to shake you. That brings us to the next layer. Number 3. Detachment creates clarity. Let's talk about what really causes people to lose control. Taking things personally. Someone questions you, criticizes your idea, challenges your competence, and instantly you feel it in your chest. Heat, tightness, defensiveness. That internal voice saying, "How dare they?" The moment that happens, your strategy disappears. You're no longer thinking about outcomes. You're protecting your ego. You're reacting, not choosing. And when you react emotionally, you give up power. This is where detachment becomes your advantage. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you refuse to let emotions hijack your decision-making when it matters most. It means stepping back, even in the middle of a confrontation, and viewing the situation as an observer rather than a target. Machiavelli said a wise person acts as they must, not as they feel. That line matters more than it seems. Acting as you feel might satisfy your ego in the moment, but it often damages your position long-term. Acting as you must means choosing the response that gets the result you actually want. And most of the time, that response is calm, controlled, and detached. Imagine you're in a meeting. You've spent weeks working on a project. You present your idea. Then someone, let's call him David, cuts in and tears it apart in front of everyone. He says it won't work. He says it's unrealistic. He says it's been tried before. You have 2 paths. Path 1, you take it personally. Your voice tightens. You defend yourself. You say, "If you actually read the proposal, you'd see I already addressed that." The room gets tense. David feels challenged. He doubles down. Even if you're right, you now look emotional and combative. Path 2, you detach. You remind yourself this isn't an attack on your identity. It's information. Maybe useful, maybe not. Either way, you don't react. You pause. You nod. You say, "That's a fair concern." Which part worries you most? Watch what happens next. The tension drops. The room relaxes. David either explains himself clearly, which helps improve the idea, or he struggles to justify his criticism and backs down. Either way, you win. Not by fighting, by staying detached. Detachment keeps you strategic. It stops you from saying things you'll regret later. Everyone has experienced that moment, saying something sharp in the heat of emotion, then replaying it for days afterward, wishing they could take it back. Once words are out, they can't be undone. You can explain, you can apologize, but the damage is done. Detachment gives you space. Space to think. Space to choose words deliberately. Space to ask yourself one simple question before speaking. Will this help me long term? Most emotional reactions don't, so you don't say them. You stay focused on the goal. Over time, detachment becomes easier. At first, it feels unnatural. You have to consciously pause. You have to remind yourself not to take the bait. But with repetition, it becomes automatic. You start noticing the moment emotions rise. You catch it early, you pause, you detach, then you respond. That pause, the gap between stimulus and response, is where your power lives. In that space, you're not a victim. You're not reacting blindly. You're choosing. And when you're choosing, you're in control. Now consider insults. Someone questions your intelligence, disrespects you publicly, tries to provoke you. Your instinct is to fire back, to defend yourself, to prove them wrong. But detachment changes the frame. You see what's really happening. They want a reaction. They want you emotional. They want you to look rattled. If you respond how they expect, you give them exactly what they're after. So you don't. You respond calmly, or minimally, or not at all. You say something neutral like, "Interesting perspective," and move on as if it didn't touch you. That's not weakness. That's control. Now they look aggressive, unstable, emotional, and you look unshaken. Machiavelli knew that whoever controls their emotions controls the outcome. Detachment creates clarity. Clarity leads to better decisions. Better decisions lead to better results. When someone challenges you, breathe. Step back mentally. Observe the situation as if you were watching it happen to someone else. Then act as you must, not as you feel. That's how you stay unshaken. Now, let's take it further. Number 4. Calmness turns tension into leverage. Staying calm isn't just defensive, it's strategic. In heated environments, calmness stands out. When everyone is emotional, loud, and reactive, the calm person becomes the anchor. Think about a room where voices are raised. People are interrupting each other. Energy is chaotic. Then there's one person who speaks slowly, doesn't rush, doesn't escalate. Everyone notices. Without trying, that person becomes the center of gravity. Others unconsciously lower their voices to match. They slow down. They start looking to that person for direction. That's leverage. Even if you don't outrank them. Even if you're younger. Even if you're less experienced. Authority in moments like these doesn't come from titles. It comes from composure. Arguments with your partner. You stay calm while emotions run high. Suddenly, you're the reasonable one. Family conflict. You don't yell while others do. People turn to you to settle things. Workplace disputes. You remain composed while others panic. Leadership notices. This isn't manipulation. It's understanding human nature. People gravitate toward stability. When things feel out of control, they look for someone who isn't. Someone who looks like they can handle what comes next. You don't need perfect answers. You don't need to be the smartest person in the room. You don't even need to be completely right. You just need to be calm. Calmness creates the perception of competence. When people perceive competence, they defer. They listen. They follow. That's leverage. And leverage allows you to guide outcomes instead of reacting to them. You can de-escalate. You can suggest solutions. You can slow things down. And people actually listen because you're not adding to the chaos. Machiavelli understood that perception often matters more than reality. A leader who appears calm is trusted, even when uncertain. A ruler who appears strong is seen as strong, even during difficulty. That's not deception. It's understanding how people make judgments. When you stay calm, people see strength. They feel reassured. They give you authority you may not have had before. That's how calmness turns tension into opportunity. And that sets up the final layer, the one that makes this permanent. Now we move into something deeper, because calmness doesn't just help you survive confrontations. Used consistently, it reshapes how people see you. And once perception changes, behavior follows. This is where calmness becomes authority. When you remain composed in heated situations, something subtle happens around you. People begin adjusting themselves before you ever say a word. They explain themselves more carefully. They soften their tone. They think twice before challenging you recklessly. Not because you're intimidating, but because you're unreadable. Unreactive people are difficult to control. Most social pressure works by triggering emotion, anger, embarrassment, fear, urgency. When someone realizes those buttons don't work on you, their influence collapses. They can't rush you. They can't bully you. They can't bait you into mistakes. So they adapt. And adaptation always favors the person who stays steady. This is why calmness under pressure often gets mistaken for confidence. Even when you're still thinking things through internally. People don't see your thoughts, they see your behavior. And behavior is what they trust. Let's talk about authority without titles. Many people assume authority comes from rank, seniority, or credentials. But in real-life confrontations, authority shifts constantly. It moves toward whoever appears most in control of themselves. You've seen this happen. A room full of people arguing, no one officially in charge, emotions high, confusion everywhere. Then one person speaks slowly and clearly. They don't rush, they don't escalate. They don't take sides emotionally. The room quiets. Why? Because calmness feels like leadership. It signals this person can handle pressure, and the human brain instinctively defers to stability in moments of stress. That's why calmness creates influence even when you're technically powerless. It's also why emotional people often lose influence even when they outrank others. Now, let's apply this to real situations. In conflicts with people you care about, calmness changes the entire dynamic. When someone is upset, they expect resistance or emotional escalation. If you match their energy, the conflict intensifies. If you stay calm, it forces a shift. At first, they may push harder, raise their voice, say sharper things. This is a test. They're checking whether your calmness is real or temporary. If you hold it, something happens. They begin to feel uncomfortable being the only emotional one. Their intensity drops. The conversation slows. And only then can anything productive happen. Calmness doesn't avoid conflict. It transforms it. The same applies in professional settings. When pressure rises and deadlines tighten, many people panic. They talk faster, blame spreads, mistakes multiply. The calm person stands out immediately, not because they have all the answers, but because they aren't making the situation worse. That's who people trust with responsibility. Now let's address a common misunderstanding. Calmness is not passivity. Staying unshaken doesn't mean staying silent forever or letting people walk over you. It means choosing the right moment and the right tone to respond. There's a difference between emotional restraint and avoidance. An unshaken person still sets boundaries. They still speak up. But when they do, it carries more weight because it's rare and deliberate. When someone who is always emotional speaks, people tune out. When someone who is usually calm speaks firmly, people listen. That's leverage. Now let's talk about how this compounds over time. Number 5. Consistency builds an untouchable reputation. Staying calm once is helpful. Staying calm repeatedly is transformative. If you handle one confrontation well, people might chalk it up to circumstance. A good day, low stakes, luck. It doesn't change how they see you. But when you stay composed again and again, during disagreements, criticism, pressure moments, people start labeling you. They don't say it out loud at first, but they think it. This person doesn't crack. Nothing rattles them. They're solid under pressure. Once that label forms, it becomes your reputation. And reputation is a form of power most people underestimate. A strong reputation does work for you before you ever enter the room. When people know you don't react emotionally, they stop trying emotional tactics. They don't raise their voice. They don't provoke. They approach you more carefully. Your calmness filters out nonsense before it even reaches you. Think about someone you know who never loses their cool. Really think about it. How do people treat them? With caution, with respect, with a certain restraint. Now think about someone who explodes easily. Someone emotional and unpredictable. How are they treated? People may avoid them. They may tiptoe around them, but they don't truly respect them. They see them as unstable. That's the difference. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He knew consistency is what separates respected leaders from forgotten ones. A ruler who is sometimes harsh and sometimes soft confuses people. When people don't know what to expect, they don't trust you. But someone who is consistently measured, consistently controlled, consistently calm, becomes predictable in the best way. Predictability builds trust. Even when people don't agree with your decisions, they respect the way you make them. They know you won't lash out. They know you won't panic. They know you won't play emotional games. That reliability is rare, and rare traits are valuable. Over time, this reputation compounds. People start recommending you for difficult situations. They want you in the room when things get tense. They trust you with responsibility because they know you won't fall apart. You need Alex in this meeting. Nothing rattles them. If there's a crisis, get Jordan. They stay calm. That's how calmness opens doors. But here's the hard truth. Building this reputation requires discipline. You can't be calm most of the time and explosive once in a while. People remember outbursts more than they remember composure. Human memory prioritizes extremes. One emotional explosion can undo months of steady behavior. That's why consistency matters more than intensity. Being unshaken doesn't mean suppressing emotions. You will feel anger, frustration, disappointment. That's human. The difference is you don't let those emotions dictate your behavior in the moment. You feel them. You process them later. But in the confrontation itself, you remain controlled. Each time you do this, you add another brick to your reputation. Each time someone expects you to crack and you don't, that image strengthens. At first, people may test you, push harder, provoke more. This happens when they sense a shift. They want to see if your calmness is real. If you pass those tests, they stop testing. They accept this is who you are, and they adjust. That's when you truly win the long game. Fewer confrontations, less drama, more respect before words are even exchanged. On the rare occasion someone does challenge you, others instinctively side with you. Not because you're louder or more aggressive, but because your reputation precedes you. Machiavelli said it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But there's a third position, being unshaken. When you're unshaken, people don't necessarily fear you. They might not love you either, but they respect you, and respect lasts longer than both. Fear fades when pressure disappears. Love fades when emotions change. Respect remains. Calmness isn't just a tactic, it's an identity. When you embody it consistently, you stop fighting every battle. Your presence handles most of them for you. And that brings us to the final integration. How this becomes who you are, not something you force. At this point, you should see something clearly. Staying calm in confrontation isn't about winning moments. It's about shaping how the world responds to you over time. This is the long game Machiavelli understood better than almost anyone. Short-term reactions feel satisfying. Long-term control is far more powerful. Most people live moment to moment. They react, defend, explode, regret, repeat. They never realize that every confrontation is quietly training others how to treat them. Every emotional outburst teaches people, this person can be pushed. Every defensive explanation teaches people, this person needs validation. Every loss of composure invites pressure. But every moment of steadiness teaches the opposite. It teaches people that urgency doesn't work on you, that aggression doesn't move you, that emotional pressure doesn't buy access to your reactions. Over time, this changes the entire environment around you. People stop escalating so quickly. They choose their words more carefully. They bring problems to you in a calmer tone, not because you demanded it, but because your behavior conditioned it. This is something most people never consciously realize. Power isn't just what you do. It's what others stop trying once they understand who you are. Now let's talk about restraint, because restraint is often misunderstood. Restraint is not weakness. In fact, restraint requires more strength than aggression. Anyone can explode. Anyone can shout. Anyone can react emotionally. Very few people can hold steady while provoked. Restraint signals options. It says, I'm choosing not to react, not because I can't, but because I don't need to. That implication alone changes how people perceive you. Think about someone who never rushes to defend themselves. They don't argue every accusation. They don't correct every misunderstanding. They let things breathe. That silence unsettles people because it removes predictability. When someone is predictable, they're easy to manipulate. When someone is not, people hesitate. That hesitation is leverage. Machiavelli wrote extensively about timing, knowing when to act and when to wait, knowing when silence is stronger than speech. Most people talk too soon. They reveal insecurity. They show their emotional cards. The unshaken person waits. They allow others to talk themselves into corners. They allow tension to expose weakness. They let silence do the work that words would ruin. Now let's apply this to criticism. When someone criticizes you publicly, your instinct is to correct them immediately, to defend your image. But often, the strongest move is to stay calm and ask a clarifying question or say nothing at all. Why? Because emotional critics usually overplay their hand. The longer they speak, the more their motivation becomes visible. And when others see that, your calmness looks even stronger by contrast. You didn't need to fight. You didn't need to explain. You let the situation reveal itself. This is strategic patience. Strategic patience is uncomfortable at first. It feels like giving up control. In reality, it's reclaiming it. You're refusing to be pulled into a reactive frame, and frames matter. The person who controls the emotional frame of an interaction controls the outcome. If the frame is chaos, the loudest wins. If the frame is calm, the most composed wins. You decide which frame exists by how you show up. Now let's talk about pressure testing, because it will happen. When you start changing how you respond, people notice, especially those who are used to controlling you emotionally. They may push harder, raise stakes, say sharper things. This isn't random. It's a test. They're checking if your calmness is real or performative. This is where most people fail. They hold it together for a while, then snap once under increased pressure. And when they snap, everything resets. The message becomes, this calmness was temporary. If you want to build real authority, you must expect these tests and pass them. Passing doesn't mean winning arguments. It means staying consistent. Calm voice, controlled body language, measured response, or no response at all. Once people realize escalation doesn't work, they stop escalating. That's when life gets quieter. Fewer confrontations, less drama, more respect before words are even exchanged. This is how calmness reduces conflict without you ever trying to avoid it. Now let's talk about identity. At first, staying calm feels like a technique, something you consciously apply. You remember to breathe, you slow your voice, you steady your posture. That's normal. But with repetition, it stops being something you do and starts becoming something you are. You don't think about calming yourself. You just are calm. You don't rehearse restraint. It's automatic. Your nervous system adapts. This is important because identity is harder to shake than behavior. If calmness is something you do, stress can disrupt it. If calmness is who you are, stress reinforces it. People sense that difference immediately. Someone pretending to be calm still leaks tension. Someone who is calm radiates it. This is why true composure feels heavy, grounded, stable. There's no rush, no urgency, no need to convince. That presence alone communicates power. And this is where Machiavelli's lesson becomes modern. In a world addicted to outrage, speed, and emotional reactions, the person who stays steady automatically rises. They don't compete for attention. Attention comes to them. They don't chase control. Control gathers around them. They don't dominate conversations. Conversations slow down around them. Now let's make this practical. You don't build this identity in big confrontations first. You build it in small moments. Low-stakes situations, everyday friction. Someone cuts you off in traffic. You don't explode. A coworker snaps at you. You don't react. A family member pushes your buttons. You pause instead of firing back. These moments train your nervous system. Each one strengthens the habit. Each one makes the next confrontation easier. Most people wait for big moments to be calm. That's backwards. Big moments reveal who you already are. If you practice calmness only when it's convenient, it won't be there when it matters. But if you practice it daily, under small pressure, it becomes automatic under big pressure. This is how you build something unshakable. And now we reach the final layer, the conclusion Machiavelli would care about most. What all of this ultimately gives you. At the core of everything we've talked about, there's one truth that matters more than all the rest. Real power doesn't come from controlling other people. It comes from controlling yourself so well that other people lose the ability to control you. That's the shift most never make. Most people think power looks loud, forceful, dominant. They equate strength with aggression. But that kind of behavior is usually driven by fear. Fear of losing respect, fear of being challenged, fear of appearing weak. Machiavelli saw through that illusion. True power is quiet. It doesn't rush to defend itself. It doesn't argue every point. It doesn't need to prove anything in the moment. It observes, waits, and chooses its response carefully. When you become unshaken, you stop fighting for position. Position comes to you. That doesn't mean people will never challenge you. In fact, early on, some people will push harder. Unshaken behavior disrupts familiar patterns. People who rely on emotional pressure don't know how to handle someone who doesn't react the way they expect. So they test you. They provoke. They escalate. They try sharper words. And this is where discipline matters. Every time you stay calm when someone expects you to crack, you send a message without saying a word. This won't work on me. Once that message lands, most people stop trying. You'll notice the shift. Conversations become cleaner. Conflicts lose intensity faster. People approach you more carefully, more respectfully. Not because you demanded it, but because your presence trained it. This is where reputation takes over. Machiavelli understood that reputation is a form of power stronger than force. A ruler who relies on fear must constantly reinforce it. A ruler who is respected doesn't have to. The expectation alone shapes behavior. The same applies to you. When people believe you're unshakable, they adjust automatically. They choose their words more carefully. They avoid emotional games. They bring problems to you with clarity instead of chaos. That's what it means to be untouchable. Not invincible, not superior, untouchable. Now let's talk about fear, love, and respect. Because this is where Machiavelli is often misunderstood. He said it's better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. But fear fades when consequences disappear. Love fades when emotions change. Respect, however, endures. Respect is built on consistency, on knowing exactly how someone behaves under pressure. When people respect you, they don't need to fear you. They simply know certain tactics won't work. Calmness builds that respect. People don't fear your aggression. They respect your restraint. Anger is predictable. Calmness isn't. And unpredictability, controlled unpredictability, is powerful. Here's the final shift you need to make. Stop treating calmness as a technique. Treat it as an identity. At first, staying calm feels like something you do. You remember to breathe. You slow your voice. You hold your posture. That's normal. But with repetition, it becomes who you are. You still feel emotion, anger, frustration, disappointment. They don't disappear. The difference is they no longer dictate your behavior in the moment. You feel them without acting them out. You don't suppress emotions. You manage them. That's maturity. And maturity is power. When you reach this point, confrontations stop feeling dangerous. They become information, signals, situations to navigate rather than battles to win. You stop overreacting because there's nothing to prove. And when you stop overreacting, people lose leverage over you. That's the chain reaction. Control yourself. Control the situation. Control the outcome. This is why the unshaken person doesn't need to be the smartest, the strongest, or the most experienced. Over time, they become the most trusted. And trust is what opens doors. When pressure hits, people look for the one who doesn't panic. When decisions matter, they listen to the one who thinks clearly. When chaos spreads, they follow the one who stays grounded. If that's you, your influence grows naturally. To lock this in, practice in small moments. Don't wait for major confrontations. Everyday friction is your training ground. Traffic, minor disagreements, subtle disrespect. These moments don't matter individually, but they shape your nervous system. Each time you stay calm, you reinforce the identity. Each time you pause instead of reacting, you strengthen control. Each time you choose restraint, the next choice becomes easier. Eventually, calmness stops feeling like effort. It becomes reflex. And when that happens, you no longer need to dominate conversation. You no longer need to defend your worth. Your presence speaks for you. Machiavelli's lesson, stripped to its core, is simple. The person who cannot be shaken cannot be ruled. Not by emotion, not by pressure, not by intimidation. When you control your breathing, posture, and voice, you control your body. When you detach from emotional reactions, you control your mind. When you do both consistently, you control how others experience you. That's how power actually works. So remember this: you don't win confrontations by being louder. You win by being unmovable. Nothing moves you.